Welcome everyone. We're going to start a new video tutorial. We're going to create a choose your own adventure project in Python. And so this video series is going to actually cover two different techniques and topics. So the first thing what we're going to do is we're going to create a multi-function adventure program. And that program is going to be written in Python. It's going to be based on a decision tree. And it's going to have many possible paths and outcomes that you can take. And then it's going to use a function for every decision that needs to be made. It's just a way of organizing and writing a program like this. Well, the nice thing about this is we're going to use Git to collaborate. So the other piece here is we're going to use Git and we're going to collaborate as teams. So I will model how I might put together a team project. And it's just one way of doing it. First of all, one person from every team should do the following. Create a repository, and I'll walk you through all these steps. Add the initial program file, and I'll show you the template that we're going to use. And it's just one way of solving this particular type of program. And then that one person needs to invite all the other team members to collaborate, and I'll walk you through that as well. Now, every team member, even the one who created the repository, has to clone that repository. Everyone needs to work on their own area of responsibility. So you're going to divide up the different decisions that need to be made. And each person is going to write, in our case, in my classroom, you need to do at least 4 different functions. Each one deals with a decision that must be made. Now, as you are working, you're always going to be pulling in changes from other team members, merging them into your work. And then you're also going to be pushing your work out to the repository. And your #1 responsibility is not to break the build. Okay? Breaking the build would be, let's say you're working on your project, you run it, and it has a syntax error. Or it has some kind of it just doesn't let you begin. Or just a really obvious runtime error that's easily fixed. If that's the case, I don't want you sending that out to the repository, because then everyone's going to get your broken code, and that's no fun. In fact, there are lots of companies that have penalties for breaking the build, such as buying donuts for the team or being made fun of for the next however many meetings they have till someone else breaks the build. But I don't want you to break the build either. So let's go ahead and let's follow this. And so let's talk about the project itself, and I'll show you the template, and we'll get working on it now. So here is the decision tree that I'm going to use for my demonstration. And for this decision tree, now they might get styled differently, but the way in which we're styling it is anything that's a square or rectangle actually is going to indicate a decision. Anything that's oval is a possible outcome, and you're going to work all outcomes into a function. Now let's zoom in on this, guys. So, first of all, this is sort of loosely, extremely loosely based on the matrix. And the beginning of the story really begins when Neo chooses to take the blue pill. But he has the option. Does he take the blue or the red? So what we're going to do is we're going to use this particular decision tree to sort of model the program, and I'll kind of work our way through this in this video series. So as I mentioned before, each of these are decisions. So do you take the blue or the red? And if you take the blue, you go to this path above. If you choose red, you go to the path below. Now right now I'm going to show you the template for the program we're going to use, and I'm going to do the blue function as well as the function for red, which eventually ends up you becoming computer food. All right, so I'll show you how to do that in Python. Now, this is based on a curriculum called Exploring Computer Science. And in version 2 of Exploring Computer Science, they had a whole unit on Python, and this was one of my favorite aspects of that unit. So I can't take the credit for this. The other thing is I'm going to show you the template we're going to use, and then I will even create a link to where you can find that online. So here is the starter code, and I haven't saved it yet, but I'm going to save this, and I'm going to put it on the public repository. And I will share the link in this video tutorial so that if you wanted to clone this project, you could. It will have this, and we're going to actually call this the template, and I'll push it through. So this is the code, and let me just walk you through what's going on here. We're using tkinter to do pop-up windows, and we're keeping it pretty simple. And then you will see a function definition here called intro. Intro will be the main one, and it starts the ball rolling of the story. And so in each of these functions, you're going to probably have some output. Okay, and there's your starter. Hey, hello, you are from such and such. You stumble across this or that or whatever. And then you have a choice to make. And the way I'm going to do it is you're going to ask for an integer. And it could be 1 or 2, or it could be 3 choices or 4 choices. However many, you just put whatever numbers, 1 through 4. And then you're going to have a little bit of decision making, right? You got to have a little if, else statement. So if it's 1, you're going to call one function. If it's 2, you're going to call another. And now look at this. On the else block, if they don't choose one of their predetermined options, all you're going to do is just force them to call that function again. And then my recommendation is you break up your functions in comment headers like this, where you identify each student or each team member's role. And because we're going to be working on one file, and then whoever this student will be is going to create a series of functions that do just what we did up there. And same thing goes for other students. Eventually, at the end, we're going to have a main section, and all you do is call the very first intro function. That will start the ball rolling. So what happens is this gets called, we go up to intro, and then depending on what choice, they're going to call one of several different functions. And then eventually, you're going to get to a function where you choose something like here, and there's no more function call. So if we get here, this is like a terminal. When we have a function that gets to a code path that doesn't call that function anymore, that means we're done because intro was the only function we called to begin with. So at that point, game is over. And you probably want to put the end on there so they know it's over. Okay? It's kind of a nice courtesy to do for your user. So this is sort of the template of it. Okay? So what I want to show you now is how to get this under version control. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this into a folder. But before we do, we're going to go to GitHub. And we're going to get that started. Okay, everybody. Here's my GitHub site. I need a new repository. And so when I'm logged in, I'm going to click on the little plus sign, new repository. One person from your team needs to do this. And I'm going to call this the matrix. Choose your own adventure. Now notice in here it will create it as the matrix with little dashes there. So at here it's just loosely based on the matrix. We're making it public, which means anyone watching this video can get a clone of this. We're going to initialize it with the README file. Now, you only do this if you don't already have a project to import. Now, I have not cloned my repository, so until I clone it, I'm okay. So I'm going to go ahead and create the README. The other thing is git ignore. I think even though we don't need it, you should get in the habit of creating a git ignore based on the programming language you're using. It's really good form because there are some languages you absolutely need a git ignore, or else that really messes things up. So I go through this process. I'm going to create the repository. So notice now, there it is. And even though I put spaces, it removed it everywhere you see it. So I'm okay. All right, so at this point, I have a repository. This is going to store the master program. In fact, we're on the master branch. We have 2 files here. What I need to do now is I need to get a clone of this repository. I also will want to invite collaborators to help work with me on this project.